Hi, this is Dr. Sharon Livingston welcoming you to the first in a series of keyword and pay-per-click videos, and I'm here with my partner and husband, Dr. Glenn Livingston. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, baby.
What are we going to talk about in our first interview?
I really wanted to get across how revolutionary keyword advertising, pay-per-click advertising is. It's really an advance in the whole advertising model that the world has known prior to the late 1990s, really early 2000s, because it used to be you could only advertise to eyeballs.
Eyeballs? Is this like science fiction?
No. I am a fan of zombie and horror movies, but no, we're not going to talk about anything disgusting here. We're actually going to talk about something quite nice, which is the fact that you no longer have to advertise to people who aren't interested in what you have to sell. It's possible to put up a billboard only on those highways where you know that people have
the
on
right
their
people.
Yeah.
And they'll be driving by.
Right, because when someone's at a search engine and they type in buy wild salmon, you know what's on their mind. You know that they're interested in buying wild salmon.
It's like salmon that's going partying and stuff.
It's like really wild salmon, man. But if you think about it, everybody used to say that they knew that half their advertising was wasted. They didn't know which half. Now we know which half.
That's really incredible, actually.
Now we really do. Do you know what's really cool, sweetheart?
Tell me.
When someone sits down at a search engine and they type in wild salmon, they're telling you so much more about what's on their mind than you could ever know by researching demographics, by figuring out what highway to put your billboard on. There's so much information that they're compressing into that little search box that you can learn how to decode, because every keyword is a customer. Every keyword is a unique mindset. You know, if someone that types in wild salmon, they're different than someone that types in buy wild salmon, and they're probably different than someone that types in salmon and cholesterol. They've got different things on their mind.
Interesting.
Right. And there are different stages of readiness to buy. We'll be talking as we go through the training all about how you can decode that and know exactly what to tell them when they get to your landing page. But what I want to get across here is that most marketers don't realize, and if you're going to go into pay-per-click advertising, keyword advertising, one of the tremendous competitive advantages you can get is to begin to understand that very subtle differences in keywords have very dramatic differences in mindset behind them.
Right, like wild salmon versus farm-raised salmon versus plain salmon versus red salmon versus king salmon.
Exactly.
Versus salmon roe versus salmonella. Sorry.
Definitely versus salmonella. And the first place that I was really aware of how a very subtle difference in language can lead to a dramatic difference in mindset and a different way that you want to treat people to take care of them was actually not online, but when I was a practicing psychologist.
Oh, I love this story.
I inadvertently, not on purpose, wound up specializing in working with suicidal adolescents.
And let me tell you, that made me crazy. So
I think you could say that it was God's work, but it was also something that took a lot out of us.
Wow.
But there were two main ways that people would present to me that they were feeling suicidal. Sometimes a kid would come in and say, hey, doc, I've been thinking about killing myself, and I wanted to talk to you about it. Other times they would say, I'm afraid I might kill myself. Now, if you translate that to search engine phrases, the difference would be thinking about killing myself versus afraid I might kill myself.
Right.
And if you were to go and type those into your search engine, I think you'd find you'd come to very much the same pages. And I would submit that that's a deadly mistake, because what would happen in my practice was when someone came in and said that they were thinking about killing themselves, that would be someone who really wasn't totally overwhelmed yet. There was still some thought involved, and they believed that if they could just get some help to think things through, that they'd be able to overcome it and solve their difficulties. On the other hand, people who were afraid that they might kill themselves, they'd been overwhelmed. Their capacity for thinking themselves out of a problem had really been overwhelmed.
Right.
And that was more of an emergency situation, and I had to consider, did this person belong in a hospital or not?
Or a suicide watch.
Yeah. Of course, this is not a lesson on how to treat suicidal patients. What I'm trying to get across is, from a marketing perspective, just how different subtle differences in language are.
To the untrained eye, you might not have realized that those were different statements.
Right.
And they were actually quite different.
Right. And you can get at those things by watching how people behave when they get to your website, by seeing which keywords lead to conversions, people that will actually opt in for your newsletter, people that would buy your product, people that will make a phone call, people that take the next step that you want them to take in your sales funnel. You'll find that if you track that back to the keyword level, that certain keywords are profitable for you and other ones aren't. And then when you do more things like starting to survey them and actually talk to people as they come to your website through chat or actually by enticing them to call you, you'll find that there are different ways that you can set up your landing pages in order to convert each keyword. And still, most marketers are not doing that.
How come?
I think that people forget that the internet is a mechanism for reaching people and not a magic solution for telling people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
People tend to rely upon the fuzzy logic of computers. So,
what do you mean by that?
well, for example, if you were to go to Google, it's possible to bid on the keyword wild salmon.
Uh-huh.
And tell Google, I don't only want to bid when someone types in exactly wild salmon, but Google, I know that you know all the other keywords that are related to that. And Google keeps track of what other things people type in, after they type in wild salmon and what they actually click on. And so Google has 150 million searches a day and a whole bunch of rocket scientists figuring this all out. And they've got a pretty good guess with regards to what other keywords are related to wild salmon.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lazy man's way of doing this is just going in, bidding on the word wild salmon, saying, okay, Google, show it to anybody you want to, any keyword you think is relevant. The bottom line is that no matter how good those rocket scientists are, no matter how accurate they are about the other things that people who type in wild salmon might also type in, every step away from wild salmon is a step away from when that person is most directly interested in.
Right.
But because it's so easy to just go into Google and say, okay, Google, you do the work, and because most marketers are lazy, it's very rare that people are going to be strategic, the majority of the world, the majority of your competition is relying upon fuzzy logic, relying upon Google to do all the work. Just because it's so easy to just throw the word in there and let Google do it.
Right.
They're not taking the time to figure out what the keywords really mean and where to land them. And as a consequence, there's still a lot of low-hanging fruit in the keyword marketing space, even in what people consider to be brutally competitive markets, because most searchers are not finding what they want right away. Right. And if you look at the recent studies, it takes people at least 5 searches per session to find what they want, if they find what they want.
Which is very frustrating.
Yeah.
So if you can eliminate people's frustration and get them where they want quickly, they're going to like you and be much happier.
If you put in the human effort to understand people and you use keyword advertising, pay-per-click advertising as a vehicle to reach people with certain things on their mind, then they're going to like you a lot better. And it's going to be easy to take them out of the competitive environment because, hey, this guy or this gal, they took the trouble to connect with me. They know what I want. This is for me.
They figured it out. They understand me.
Right. Because isn't it frustrating to search for stuff and not be able to find what you want?
It really is. Or to type in certain words. Well, I was typing in something specifically this morning. I was looking for something for an article I was writing, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't there. It was like just so far off the mark. It made me have to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and the deeper I went, the further away it went, and then I had to rethink what I was typing. And
it's a very frustrating experience.
It is.
There's the promise of all of these quadrillions of bits of information readily available at our fingertips with all this speed, and then people sit down to look for it and they just can't find it.